Since 2021, I've been able to win the Open World Championship every year. So I've now won 5 Open World Championships, which is a pretty crazy thing to me when I think back to 2017, 18, 19, where I just wanted that one win. None of the performances that I've had since 2019 have been my absolute best at a World Championship. So I'm very grateful for sort of how the cards have fallen at each of those championships to allow me to not bring my best performance, but still come out with a win. To date, my best performance is from the World Games 2022. The last few years, I've definitely felt like I need to be bringing better performances to take some pressure off. I've been going into the competitions feeling like I know that I might not win. Just because I'm realistic with I know what my training has been like and I don't know what everybody else's training has been. I really focus on just doing what I can do for myself and then sort of seeing where things end up at the end of the day. Obviously my bench is the lift that really keeps me in a lot of meets right now. It lets me be competitive. It's giving me that subtotal to hopefully be able to pull enough to stay in the lead. It's definitely been something that's built up over the years. My bench started to progress sort of in my early junior years when I stopped doing a bunch of other sports and just was focusing on powerlifting. As a junior lifter, I did hold the world record as a junior around like 150. So it was a good bench at the time. Obviously working with Blaine was what really took my bench to the next level. And most of that was just having an outsider's perspective on it and an outsider pushing me to try new things in the shirt, to be in the shirt more, to change my technique. And there was countless frustrating bench sessions. I didn't think it was going to come, and then over time it started to click. And then I've really just been able to keep pushing it as much as I can. It's been pretty cool to be one of the first females benching over 225 in the IPF. And it's one of those things that it hasn't progressed a lot lately, but I'm hopeful that in the coming weeks, months, years, we can still get it a little bit higher. Often, because my bench is so good, my mindset going into deadlifts is just to pull enough to try and stay in the lead. Because deadlift isn't my best lift, lots of times that means I'm pulling early in the round because I'm pulling less, and then because of the round system in powerlifting, my competitors are pulling after me. So I just have to pull my last deadlift and then wait and see if they make or miss their attempt to find out final placing. I think being in that situation for me is really all that I've ever known, it feels like, that I'm always just having to pull my last deadlift and then wait and see. I think the pressure is more or less the same either way. Most of the time I know I need to go and make the lift to jockey into position. So it's just a different perspective. It's a different, you either get to celebrate on the platform or you get to celebrate in the back room after. So I don't think that it's really a different pressure thing. It's more just whether you know if you need the lift on the platform or not. I don't think I've ever had a competition where I pulled my last deadlift and there wasn't a chance that somebody else was going to pull for the win after me. So I don't think I've ever had the sort of opportunity to celebrate on the platform because I knew that that lift was the absolute last lift and that was for the win. So yeah, I don't know if it would change how I feel about lifts, pulling it on the platform and knowing that was for the absolute gold versus the way I usually end up doing it, where I pull my last deadlift and then see what happens. Right now, I'm about 2 weeks out from World Games. This past week of training was probably my toughest week of training that I've had this whole block. I randomly dropped a deadlift. I missed a bench. I haven't missed a bench in a long time. And at the end of the week, I'm basically just having to have a really short memory, let it go, and think about all the good training I've had leading into it. Right now I feel like I'm sort of at that point of I can either spiral and let the negative thoughts happen and sort of take over, or just think about the positives and try and ramp up that confidence going into the meet. So obviously I'm trying to let go of what happened in training this past week and just focus on the next few sessions that I have before we travel to China. I'm feeling really excited to step back on the World Games platform. I haven't done a lot of looking at what numbers would do what for different people. I really try and leave that to the coaching staff because I can only control what I can control. I'm really just looking forward to having the opportunity to be competing at my 5th World Games. It's still crazy for me to think that this is my 5th one. I really don't think that I'm that old, but somehow I'm old enough to have done five World Games. So I'm really just trying to enjoy the experience. Like every meet, you don't know when it will be your last, but I'm definitely starting to feel like there might be an end at some point. And this might be my last World Games. 4 years is not a short period of time. I'm just gonna try and really enjoy the experience. I think it's likely that the competition will be closest between myself and Daria Rusnenko of Ukraine. She has held the world record in the squat. We have gone head to head over the last 3 or 4 years, I think. She's gonna come in light. She's normally light as an 84, so she's gonna have that advantage at this event because it's all based on points. So I think that she's probably gonna be my toughest competition. At the end of the day, I'm trying to really just enjoy the experience, and I really hope that my performance reflects the training that I've had, because it feels like it's been the best training cycle that I've had in a number of years. But I also know from experience that sometimes the best training cycles don't result in the best competition total. So it's really hard to say. We'll see what August 18th brings.
Lock in, lights, camera, action, telly, ESPN, it's a top scene. Lock in, lights, camera, action, I don't fold a band when it's time to win. Trolling cause we're rolling under lights, we don't get anxious. Do it with a purpose, we don't do it to be famous. Really, they believe.
Going into competition day, I was feeling really good. There was a 14-hour time change, so obviously that took a few days to get accustomed to. I had taken a lot of naps to try and help combat that. And I was pretty much sleeping on schedule. Body weight wise, my weight had pretty much stayed what it was from when I was at home to when I was there. Food wise, I was able to keep it close to what I normally eat, just with what was available in the food hall. So really I was feeling good. Team Canada had had awesome days leading up to it. I had been there to support all the athletes who competed before me. I was really looking forward to my opportunity on the platform, just to see what happened and see what the day brings. Through the week in China, my lower back had been a little bit fatigued, a little bit more fatigued than normal. I think it was just the combination of the long travel day, the next day I squat relatively heavy in knee wraps, and then just the anticipation of everything. But really warming up, it felt good. My body felt really good. Things were moving like they should. Squat warm-ups sort of were on track. We left my opener where it was planned. My opener was maybe a little bit harder than anticipated, but I think some of it is just nerves, getting that first one in and then just being able to go and execute beyond that. From my opener to my second, we jumped 7.5 kilos. The plan had been 7 to 10, depending on how it moved. I think when I came off, Ryan asked me, "What do you want to go?" And my initial reaction was, "I don't care, you decide." And then I think I said 7. Just because I knew we needed that second squat attempt. So my second squat attempt felt really good. I think to me it moved the fastest of the 3. I think just the nerves were shaken off after that first attempt, and I just went out and executed. For my third, we jumped 5 kilos to 257.5, which ties my best squat. Sort of the game plan had been 257, 260 would be sort of cap. So my third squat, it was hard. As I was coming up with it, I hit a point where I knew that I could grind through it just with the position of my body, but I also knew it was rolling back in my hands and sort of down my back, which is something that I sometimes use to help me lift more, but it can also be a downfall because the bar is getting very low in my fingers. And I remember getting towards the top and being like, I can stand up with this, it might fall off my back at the top, but I knew that the spotters were there. I would have felt terrible if it had, but thankfully I was able to hold on to it. I got the rack command and they helped me back in, and I got 3 white lights on that lift, so tied my personal best squat. That was a great feeling because it's been a long time. My 257.5 comes from 3 years ago at the last World Games. So to match that, I know it's one of those silly things about our sport in that we work so hard and I'm super ecstatic just to do something I've done before. But that's the reality of the ups and downs of being in the sport for 20 some years. After squats, I knew it was really good that I had made all 3 of my attempts. Throughout the day, I didn't look at the scoreboard at all. From the audio cues that I can pick up on, I knew that Rhaea was performing well. I knew she had got her 2nd attempt. I didn't know if she had got her 3rd because she was squatting after me. By that time, I was back in the warm-up room and there wasn't any audio in there. So I knew she had got her 2nd and I knew it was a big squat. But I guess I knew after squats that I had put myself in a good position by making all 3 of my attempts. Bench warm-ups felt fabulous. I was actually touching easier than I normally do in my shirt. My last 2 warm-ups are in the shirt and both of them I touched a little bit easier. So I thought my opener was going to be smooth sailing, the touch would be nice and the presses would be fine. My presses and warm-ups, I don't think any of my coaches had any doubt in my abilities based on my warm-ups. Coming out to the platform though, my opening attempt, the touch was incredibly hard and I don't know why. I'm not sure if just the nerves of being on the platform or what. I didn't feel more nervous than I normally do. My setup felt good, the lift off felt good. My bar path on the descent wasn't very good and I sort of dumped it to touch and then the press was not the right path. It was out front. I wasn't really locked out. Got the rack command, but 3 reds. It's not the first time I've missed my opening bench. So at that point in time, I sort of knew what to expect. I knew I just need to regroup, go out and do what I do on my second. My 2nd attempt, setup felt good and everything. The touch felt way better. On my press on the 2nd, where sort of the press transitions from the shirt to the triceps, at that point in time, there was a little, like, I call it a hiccup, in that it might have gone down, it might not have. It wasn't one path up. At that point in time, I'm like, well, I'm gonna finish this, hold it. I knew it was better than my first, and 2 reds, 1 white. So for the first time in my life, I'm in the situation where I now need to make my 3rd attempt to stay in the meet, which hindsight, it's an interesting thing to be going through. That hadn't crossed my mind in the moment. It was, okay, I just know I need to go out and execute my next attempt. The coaches were all trying to keep me really calm and grounded and just not overthink things because I think at that point, that could definitely happen. I went out for my 3rd with lots of confidence because it's a weight I've hit, I don't know, dozens, hundreds of times in training and meets before. The touch was better. The press again had that same sort of hiccup on the way up. And on the platform, it got 2 reds and 1 white. Obviously at that point, I was disappointed, devastated, crushed. I knew at that point there was 1 white, so there was a potential the jury might overturn it. I really just remember I hit the end of the bench and I walked off and I sort of walked through the back, grabbed my wraps or something from a chair and just went sort of out of the main prep area and stood and looked at the wall and started processing like, okay, that just happened. I've bombed for the first time. What happens now? How do I deal with this? How do we move on from this? And that's when I heard the announcer say that the lift had been overturned. And my brother, Ryan Fowler, was right there with me at that time. And I think he hit me on the back and was like, all right, let's go deadlift. There was no time for any emotions. So it was a fairly long hike from the prep area to the warm-up room. And on the way back, I was just trying to control my breathing. I had tears coming and just trying to actually control myself and be like, okay, I'm somehow still in this and now I get the opportunity to deadlift and see where I fall at the end of the day. Warming up for deadlifts, I'm so thankful for my support team of my husband Ryan, my brother Ryan, and Shane Martin. They just made me focus on the next attempt. I didn't have a lot of time being the last bencher and deadlifts being relatively soon, so they got me out of my shirt, threw my socks and shoes at me while I tried to sort of compose myself and get my warm-ups in. And I'm so thankful for that team who just kept me grounded and kept me focused on what I needed to do. There was no talk of what had just happened. which I think was good for me at the time because otherwise I probably would have been an emotional wreck. Only making one bench press attempt, I had a feeling that that wasn't a good thing for my total and points. I assumed Rhaea had weighed in lighter than me. I had weighed in pretty light for myself lately, but I knew she would be lighter than me. I knew her big squat was there, and I thought that she had done fairly well on bench, so I knew that I just needed to go and make attempts. Really, the goal was to be on the podium. That was the first priority. Winning was sort of second priority. So I knew that I had gotten through bench, thankfully, and now I just needed to execute on deadlifts. Deadlift warm-ups felt really good. Nothing felt off. If anything, I would say that they moved a little bit better than anticipated. And maybe that was just some of the adrenaline from the bench situation, dumping and keeping me moving there. So going into deadlifts, my opener had been in at 200. I heard the guys talking about we could increase it to maybe 5 if we need to, just for jockeying for position. After I had done all my warm-ups and was back in the prep area, probably 4 or 5 minutes before deadlifts were to start, I saw the guys looking at the score sheet, and at that point in time, heard Ryan say to Shane, go 202.5, and saw Shane run to change my opener. At that point in time, I think I knew that it was close. I figured the fact that we were moving my opener up meant that we were moving it up to be in a better position. So I thought I just need to go and make my attempts, and I know that the guys will take care of whatever weight needs to be on the bar. My opening deadlift felt great, probably better than expected. I was happy to get it on the board and knew that whatever weight they put on, I'd be capable of pulling. My second attempt, I went out with full confidence, got to the top, and my left hand started slipping. I thought I got the down command before my hand had slipped out, and I thought I was locked out. On the platform, I got 2 white lights, and then the jury overturned it to a no lift. I wasn't really surprised. Part of me maybe felt like I deserved it after getting an overturn the other way on bench. But that, I don't want to say that played with my confidence, but
That happened?
because I felt really confident going into my third, but it was just like, okay, this is how today is going. It's not my most perfect day. I'm not executing to competition standards, but I know that I can pull whatever weight they have to put on the bar. Going into my third deadlift, even though I had missed my second attempt, I still was really confident in being able to pull it. My plan was to tighten my belt one just for a little bit more support, and then to flip my grip to the opposite grip that I had pulled my second on. In training leading up to World Games, I had missed a deadlift attempt with that grip, same sort of thing. It had slipped out of my hand at the top, or had fallen out of my grip at the top. And so I knew if I flipped grip, I haven't ever had that problem this way. Based on Rhaea pulling before me, I knew that I was in a situation for the first time ever where I had to pull to win. It's definitely a different feeling going out to pull for the win versus I'm pulling this and then making somebody else pull that, even though I know it's essentially the same thing. Setting up for my third deadlift, I just knew I needed to pull this. Rhaea had made hers right before me as I was chalking up, so I knew that she had moved into the lead. I had picked up on that from the announcer, and I knew that the guys would have put whatever I needed on the bar to move me into first. So walking out to it, I didn't know what weight was on the bar. At glance, I actually thought it was 222.5 and had the thought, I can pull this. Hindsight, it was only 217.5, but that's okay. Setting up, I was just trying not to overthink it and just tried to do what I do and lift the weight. When it broke off the floor, once it got to my knees, I was pretty confident that I could lock it out. I just had the awareness that I just need to ease this through so that I don't have any downward motion through the top of the lift. At the top, I felt super solid, didn't feel like my grip was slipping. I knew I was locked out, so was pretty confident it would be 3 white lights. When I saw the lights come up, it was joy, elation, satisfaction that I had actually pulled for the win. And it's definitely a different feeling. In the past, when I've pulled and then had to wait and see, I'm still excited, I'm still proud, but there's not that finality of being the last deadlifter. So it felt more joyous than I would say I typically am, and I think I expressed more emotion than I typically did. I ran into Ryan's arms, we hugged, we celebrated. There was no waiting to be titled the World Games champion. It was just that moment right there on the platform where I knew it was done. I'm really proud of myself to be able to say that I'm 2 times the World Games champion. It's something that's pretty incredible. I would say 8 years ago is probably something I didn't think could happen. As I've grown in the sport, I've been given the opportunity to do it. Competing at 5 World Games is something pretty crazy. I feel just really blessed to have been given those opportunities over the last 15 years, 16 years, 19 years. I can't math. 2009 to 16 years. Is that what I said first? Good job, brain. Looking back at what my training cycle was leading into the World Games, I do think my performance reflects what the training cycle was. Squat and deadlift both have been pretty consistent in training and trending in a really positive direction. Bench I had been struggling with, just with different shirts, with not doing clean presses. It's definitely not been my strongest lift lately. And I think my performance on the platform was an accurate reflection of what that training cycle had been. I think the last year I've probably maybe taken training a little bit less seriously, focused a little bit less on it. If my bench had been what I thought it maybe would be on meet day, I think I had a shot at the world record total. Obviously my bench wasn't there and you can say coulda, woulda, shoulda, but this training cycle has given me sort of an insight into I can still hit my best performance. Obviously, like, I am aging. There's no doubt in that. I'm doing things to try and keep my body good. There's a couple of nagging aches and pains, but in general, they've gotten better over the last year or two. At this point, I feel like I owe a lot of the success of like the last 2 World Games to Blaine. Why am I getting emotional about this? When I started working with him in 2016, I was a good powerlifter, but I wasn't a great powerlifter. I wasn't in a good place with my relationship with powerlifting at that time. I wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't really seeing any progress, and he made me find my love and passion for it again, and also made me a better lifter. He took my bench to levels that nobody thought was possible, really. Some of the numbers that I have hit over the years have been well in excess of what the world records were. And I think without making that jump to working with him back then, I don't know if I would still be in the sport, and I don't know, and I definitely wouldn't be at the level that I am. So it's hard to think about what's next, because at one point in time in this training cycle, I was sort of thinking the World Games and that might be it. What does my life look like without powerlifting being a main priority? And it's definitely, I still don't know what that answer is, but I've been sort of doing some self-work on it, talking to some people about what that might look like, just so I'm prepared for it, because there might be a day that Rhaea is not competing at Worlds, and I need to be okay. And then I come off the platform and I'm talking to people after, and there's a dang carrot out there that it's like, the next World Games is in Germany. Can I make it to that World Games? And I don't know, this sport is never ending. And I think it's one of those, if I'm loving it, if I'm enjoying it, I'm gonna keep doing it. That's what I always tell people to do, and it's one of those I need to take my own advice. But it's just one of those sort of frustrating things where, you know, the end, I felt like the end might be in sight just with where I was physically and mentally. And now, after my 5th World Games, to potentially see a 6th one on the horizon, it's kind of crazy to think about, and also a bit exhausting. Because the sport is hard. The training is hard. The mental side of it is hard. Training for hours and hours while fighting for 0.5 kilo increases is hard. And it's hard to stick with it a lot of days. So I think this event and this training cycle have given me a glimpse into maybe my best numbers can still be in my future and not behind me. Right now, I think I'm gonna try and push for Worlds this year, see what numbers we can hit there, and then make some decisions after that. It's such a big part of my life. It's so ingrained in my life. My business revolves around it. There's definitely like some addiction, obsession there, right? I don't know what my life would look like without powerlifting. I think some of it is there's always more weight. You can always get that 0.5 kilo PB. You can always add a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So even when you're at the top of the game, even when you're winning worlds, winning the world games, setting world records, there's still more weight to put on the bar. So I think some of it is just the weight, trying to push yourself that little bit more. It gives training a purpose. It gives me an excuse to travel the world. And I truly don't know what my life would be without it. But I think that you can never lift enough. Like, I could keep talking about this sport all night.